you don't have to keep drifting through days that feel flat. There is a way back to feeling present in your own life, and it starts smaller than you think. Hello, my friend, and welcome back to episode 193 of Redefining Midlife. The other day I realized that we're not far off 200 episodes, and we're also coming up on 4 years of doing this together. Now, that's two major milestones for the show. And in the world of podcasts, it's actually quite rare. And honestly, I still can't believe it. I'm simply a small independent business that I created to support midlife women just like you and just like me. And as you know, we're often a forgotten group in society. So this podcast has always been my way of giving something back to women in this stage of life. Whether it's episodes, whether I'm talking through relatable topics like I will be today, or bringing you world-class guest experts, or just simply having conversations with other midlife women. All of this is free for you every week. So in return, I'd just love to ask a big favor. If this show has meant something to you along the way, I would really love your help celebrating these two big milestones of mine. It would mean the world to me if you could just leave a rating or a review and send this episode to at least one other person in your life who might not yet know about it. And that really is just a genuine way, an easy way to help more women find their way here. It's all about women supporting women, nothing more and nothing less. Okay, so let's just start today's episode because it's something that's familiar to many women in midlife. It's that sense of looking up one day and just realizing the days have just started to blur together. Not exactly unhappy, nothing is wrong, but something just feels a bit flat, like life is happening to you instead of with you. Maybe it shows up as a school run you don't do anymore, and the quiet, strange quiet that's replaced it. Or perhaps it's a Tuesday that looks exactly like last Tuesday, which looks exactly like the one before that. Or maybe it's simply noticing that a whole season or week or day has flown by and you can't quite say what filled it. Now, if any of that sounds familiar, I want you to know that there is absolutely nothing wrong with you. This really is one of the most common things that I hear from women in this stage of life, but there is a lot that we can do about it. Here's the thing about the feeling. It does tend to show up hardest in midlife, and there's a reason for that. For a lot of us, so much of our identity was wrapped up in looking after everybody else and the busyness that comes with that. Raising kids, building a career, holding a household together, being the person everyone else leaned on. And then somewhere along the way, that role or those roles start to shift. The kids need you less, or maybe your career feels like it's on autopilot. Maybe the routine that used to feel comforting now just feels like a damn routine. And when the role that shapes so much of your day-to-day starts to change, it's completely normal for the days themselves to start feeling like they've lost some of that meaning too. This really isn't about needing a bigger life or blowing everything up and starting again. It's more about learning how to find meaning in the life that you already have. The life in your ordinary Tuesday, or in the school run that doesn't happen anymore, in the roles that may no longer exist, or in the quiet of the house. Because it's really tempting to look outside yourself for the answer, to find a new hobby or a new goal or a new version for busy. And for sure, sometimes those things would really genuinely help. But more often, what women tell me that they're actually craving isn't more to fill their days with. It's a relationship with the days that they already have. And I remember this happening to me years ago, back when I was still teaching. My days were completely full, crazy full. Lessons to plan, papers to mark, students to look after, a classroom that needed me from the moment I walked in, and the staff and the jobs and the roles I had within the school. And then when I left teaching, the fullness didn't disappear straight away, kind of just changed shape. Suddenly, I had ordinary days that weren't structured around everyone else's needs or a bell. And for a while, I genuinely didn't know what to do with them. I was decades deep in a career. And it just took me a long time to realize that meaning doesn't come from how full or busy a day might look. It comes from how present you are inside it, no matter what it's made of. And research into well-being tells us something really reassuring here, that it's not the big once-in-a-lifetime moments that we shape how fulfilled we feel overall. It's about how present we are in the small, repeated ones. Which means the good news is you don't need to change your whole life to feel differently inside it. You just need a few small, intentional shifts. So let's get into the 5 ways to exactly do that. The first way is one of the simplest, and it's something I come back to again and again with the women I mentor. It's about using your senses on purpose, just to pull yourself back into the present moment, even in the middle of something completely mundane and ordinary. Just think about the last time you drank a cup of tea or coffee and you actually tasted it. Not the coffee you drink while you're scrolling your phone or half listening to somebody talk, but the one where you notice the warmth of the cup in your hands, the smell of it before you even take a sip, and the actual taste on your tongue. Now, that's the difference between living a moment and just moving through it. I do this with my own morning walk. Now, some days I'm just going to catch myself halfway through, having noticed absolutely nothing about where I've been. You've probably done something the same. So now I make a small practice of it. I'll notice the temperature of the air, the sound of the birds, the colour of the sky that morning, the cars that drive past me. Now, it takes maybe 30 seconds of intention, but it changes that whole entire walk from something I did to something that I actually experienced. And your senses are one of the fastest way that can bring you back into the present moment, because you can't taste, smell, hear, touch, or see something while your mind is somewhere else entirely. And that's what makes this way so useful. It doesn't ask you to find extra time in your day. It just asks you to notice a time that you already have. And that's a big difference. Now, I've had women in my mentoring work tell me they've tried this with something as small as folding laundry. Yeah, feeling the warmth of the fabric fresh out of the dryer or from the clothesline, the textures of the fabrics, noticing the smell of it. All of this sounds almost too simple to matter. Or maybe it's sitting outside in the morning sun with a cup of tea, and they notice the feeling of the sun on their face, the warmth of the cup in their hand, and the silence before the noise of the day. But that's exactly the point. You don't need a special planned moment of mindfulness. You just need to practice coming back to your senses inside the moments you're already living. Just try it with an ordinary task this week. Not a special moment, just an ordinary one. Maybe it could be like when you're preparing the dinner or having a shower or buying the groceries. Just notice what happens. Now, the second way is about breaking up the sameness just a little bit. Our brains are wired to remember what's different and forget what's the same, which is part of why whole weeks can feel like they disappear in a blink. If every day looks roughly the same, your brain files it away as one long blur rather than a series of distinct memories. Now, this doesn't mean overhauling your whole routine or booking an expensive trip that you can't afford. It means small, deliberate changes. Something like try taking a different route on your walk or on your way to work or to the shops. Try a new recipe instead of the one that you already always make. It might be a favorite, but try something new. Or try sitting in a different chair to read a book. Listening to different kinds of music while you cook dinner. Now, I hear from the women again in my mentoring work who feel like they need a permission to shake things up, as if changing a small habit is, somehow indulgent or unnecessary. It isn't. A little variety isn't a luxury. It's one of the simplest tools that you have for making your days feel less like they're just sliding past you. Think back over the last month. If I asked you to describe 5 distinct days, could you? And for a lot of us, the honest answer is probably no, because so many of our days genuinely do blend into one another. But the good news is that this is fixable and it doesn't take much effort. Even choosing to drink your cup of tea or coffee somewhere different in the house, that's a change. Or listening to a podcast on your usual walk instead of listening to nothing at all. Just these little things gives your brain something to file away as its own moment rather than just a repeat of yesterday. Now, the third way ties in closely with what we talked about in the framing. So many of us build our sense of purpose around caring for other people. And when that role shifts, it can leave a real gap. Now, small acts of kindness are one of the most effective ways that you can use to fill that gap without needing a whole new identity. And this isn't about big, grand gestures. It can be as simple as holding the door for someone, actually meeting their eye, giving them a smile. It can be a genuine compliment to a stranger. It's checking in on a friend you know may be having a hard week. Just because you thought of her, send her that message. These small moments do two things at once. Firstly, they give you a real sense of purpose in the moment, and they remind you that your caring nature didn't disappear when your role changed. It just needs somewhere new to go. Now, I've watched this shift so many of the women that I work with. When they feel lost after a change in their role, whether that's an empty nest or stepping back from a career or anything like that, just reconnecting with small kindness, daily kindness, gives them something to hold on to while they work out what that bigger picture might look like. And there's something else worth saying here too. Kindness doesn't have to be directed outwardly to count. Speaking to yourself with the same warmth you'd offer a friend, or forgiving yourself for a day that didn't go to plan, or choosing patience instead of frustration, that's kindness too. And for a lot of midlife women, it's the harder version to practice. So if being kind to others feels easy, but being kind to yourself doesn't, that's worth sitting with this week. Now, the fourth way is gratitude. And I know that word gets thrown around so much it's almost lost its meaning. So let's get really specific about what this can actually look like. And this isn't about forcing yourself to feel grateful when you don't. It's about deliberately looking back over an ordinary day and finding 2 or 3 genuine moments that are worth noting. Not the big wins, just those small genuine ones. As simple as the way the light came through the kitchen window this morning, or a text from a friend that made you laugh, or the fact that you got through a hard conversation without losing your temper. Now, I had a client who told me her days felt like a blur of tasks. She had nothing to show for them. So we started with something simple. Every evening, 3 lines. What went well, what she noticed, and what she was grateful for. Now, within a few weeks, she told me the days themselves hadn't changed much, but the way she felt about them had shifted completely. She was noticing more while the day was happening because she knew she'd be looking back on it that evening. And that's the real power of gratitude done on purpose. It doesn't just make you feel better about the day that's passed. It changes how present you are inside the day that's happening. And you don't need a journal or a formal practice for this to work, although it might work that way for you, and great, and it's a lovely way to do it. No qualms there. But just even 3 lines in the notes app on your phone before bed, it can be enough. It doesn't really matter how you do it. What matters is doing it often. What matters is that you're training your attention to look for what's good, what's on purpose, and at the end of an ordinary day. Now, the 5th way ties all of these things together, and it's the one I want you to hold on to most. We know that you can't always choose your circumstances. We all know life in midlife often comes with plenty that's well outside our control. Health changes, family dynamics, financial pressures, all of these things are real, none of them easy. But you can choose again and again what you want to feel more of internally. And this is less about instinct and more about intuition. It's quite a wiser part of you that already knows what you need more of in your life. Do you want more calm, more connection, more joy, even in small doses? Once you know the answer, you can start making tiny decisions throughout your day that move you towards that feeling, rather than waiting for your circumstances to hand it to you on a plate. I always ask the women that I mentor a version of this question. If you could feel one thing, just one thing more, what would it be? And most of the time that answer comes quickly because deep down, they already know. The harder part isn't knowing what that feeling is. It's giving yourself permission to choose it day after day, instead of waiting for your circumstances to line up perfectly first. And this is a thread that runs through everything else that we've talked about today. Coming back into your senses, letting some variety into your life, choosing kindness, practicing gratitude. They're all just different paths towards the same destination. Feeling more like yourself, feeling more present, more alive inside your own life. If any of this feels familiar, I want you to know something important. You are definitely not alone in this. So many of the women that I talk to, whether it's in my mentoring work or in the messages after podcasts or in my DMs on Instagram, they describe exactly this feeling. It's just that sense of drifting through your own life, even when nothing looks wrong from the outside. And like I said before, it's one of the most common things that I do hear, and it doesn't mean that something has gone wrong with you. Just know that. Just means you're due for a little reconnection and an adjustment. And working through these 5 ways that we've covered today really can genuinely shift how your days feel, and you can start this week. But if you're the kind of woman who does want a bit more structure and wants a bit more support putting all of these sorts of things into practice, that's exactly what Rediscover You was created for. It's my gentle self-paced guide that walks you through the 9 key areas of your life with prompts and reflections to help you reconnect with who you are underneath all of those different roles that you play. It's a great low-cost way and low-stakes way for you to start. And you can find it at joeclarkcoaching.com/shop or head to the show notes for the link or send me a DM on Instagram. But if you're craving something more personal, something more guided, and a space where someone is walking right beside you, taking you through all the steps through the season of life that you're in, well, that's what my one-to-one mentoring program Reimagine is for. It's 6 weeks of dedicated support to help you move through whatever this stage of midlife is asking of you. And again, you can find all the details on my website. Now, there's no wrong door here. Some women just need this episode and just a little bit of intention for a change to happen. Some want a guide to work through in their own time. And some people want someone alongside them the whole way. Wherever you land on that, the most important part is that you don't have to keep drifting through days that feel flat. There is a way back to feeling present in your own life, and it starts smaller than you think. Now, before we wrap up, let's just bring all of these things together. Here are the 5 simple ways to find more meaning in your ordinary days. Come back to your senses and let yourself actually experience the small moments instead of just moving through them. And then let a little variety in, because your brain remembers what's different and forgets what's the same. Let kindness be the anchor, especially while your sense of purpose is finding its new shape. Practice gratitude, not as a vague, nice idea, but as a genuine daily habit. And choose a feeling you want more of, again and again, regardless of what your circumstances hand you. Now, none of these require a big life change. They just need a bit of intention. And if you keep doing them, they start to become part of who you are. Now, I don't think midlife is a moment life gets smaller or slower. For me, I think it's an opportunity, and that's a way I want you to see it too. A chance to look honestly at your ordinary days and decide on purpose what you actually want them to feel like. So many of us spend this stage of life waiting for permission to want more from our days. So I want this episode to be that permission for you. You don't need a different life to feel more present inside this one. You just need a few small decisions made deliberately starting today. Just pick one of the 5 ways we talked about today and try it this week. Just one. You don't have to do all 5 if you don't want to, just one. Notice what shifts. Well, thank you so much for being here today with me, my friend, and I will see you back here on the podcast next week. Take care. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, follow, and share it with another incredible midlife woman. And join me next week as we keep creating an amazing second half of life.